With all the focus on Arsenal's injuries and being unable to name first-choice players, what people didn't realize is the real disadvantage was Spurs had to name theirs. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name's Elliot Smith. You got to block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. That's right. Spurs had to pick their first-choice players, a huge disadvantage. They had to play Maddison. They had to play Bentancur. They had to play Vicario. They had to play Brennan Johnson. They had to play these guys. And then you say the names and you realize that's a huge disadvantage. It just wasn't focused on in the media while people were worried about our absentee players. It is another win at 3 Point Lane. And 3 Point Lane becoming a happy hunting ground. I want to say, I think it's now we have more wins at their brand new stadium than they have at ours. Or there's some incredible stat like that. We've now won 3 away derbies. It is a beautiful thing. I think because we've been so caught up the last few seasons trying to win the title, which is a beautiful thing, and a thing, again, Spurs are not familiar with, it's easy to forget that we're living through a really special time as Arsenal supporters, and winning at Spurs 3 seasons on the trot. That's not something that's done very often. And in case you're wondering how gaudy the away stats have gotten, this is where we're at for 2024, everybody. 11 games played in 2024 on the road away. 10 wins, 1 draw, 31 scored, 3 conceded, 9 clean sheets, 0 minutes trailing on our travels in 2024 in 11 games. It is remarkable. And while we all know what we are trying to accomplish, the big things we're trying to accomplish, when you step back and look at how good we are and how good we have performed, especially away, it is remarkable. So I hope everybody is soaking up the joy of North London being fully and truly red once again. Ange, the nice guy mask slipping off maybe just a little bit. Did we see that? Did we see that in the post game being asked about things that he doesn't want to be asked about, set pieces, doesn't particularly care for that question? He said, in my second season, I always win things. And this was great if you missed it. The interviewer, this poor woman, she's just trying to ask a question. She said, you know, you said in your second season, you usually win things. Do you feel this team is set up to win things? He said, I always win things. Well, mate, get ready for that not to be the case. So yeah, the mask slipping off there. It is a fun time to be Arsenal when you win the derby, and I hope everybody soaked up the joy of it, because otherwise it's a horrible day until it isn't. And today it really isn't. We had a really fun instant reaction. If you want to jump over there and check it out, I think we've got a rewatch planned over on Patreon if you want to check that out. But we got stuff going on this week. We'll have an instant reaction for our return to Champions League on Thursday, of course. The main pod won't be until Friday because it'd be a little bit silly to do that Thursday with us playing Friday. So that's just a little admin, but it's time to talk North London Derby. And here to do it with me is Clive. You can find him on Twitter at ClivePFC. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
And the man who was there at Tottenham's toilet bowl. I will have to ask if he was in colors or incognito. I'm guessing he's a man of experience. He was incognito. His name is Tim. You can find him on Twitter at Nwaneri. Hello, Tim.
Hello there. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much always incognito away matches, but I mean, you only wear an Arsenal shirt to that game if you have a genuine death wish, quite frankly, and you wish for that death to be violent and painful.
Yeah, I mean, I did see one young child wearing an Arsenal shirt. It was the mascot. You knew the game was going to get off the right way. Did you see this? The mascot bodying Spurs mascots in the tunnel.
Yeah, little Gabriel.
Yeah. Raya and Pedro Porro having a little cuddle in the tunnel while Ben White looked on in disgust. Abject disgust. None of that. We'll have none of that. There's a lot we can get to. Obviously, the lineup is a big talking point. The injuries, the bench. We were forced to field some creative players on the bench from Football Manager, but we did the job. So, Tim, I do want to start with your perspective, though, because it's a unique one, and it's one that I think we're fortunate to be able to talk about, which is just the experience of going to Tottenham and seeing a third consecutive victory, what it's like there. Because to me, after we scored, unlike last season we got 3-0 up. When they got a goal back, it got very loud, and it was a cauldron right to the finish. They sounded like a beaten ground after we scored. So what was your experience like with this North London derby, the limbs when Gabriel scores, the taking the piss? That Ange song is a great one. If you haven't heard it, look it up. The song about Ange and a shit football team. But yeah, what was the derby day like at Tottenham Stadium?
Yeah, I feel like at the end of last season, this is an incredibly first world problem. Don't get me wrong, it's not even a problem, but like we had the gravity of some of these victories almost taken away from us because of the title context. So we won at Spurs last year, but it didn't I mean, obviously you get the bragging rights feeling, but also the way it ended, it was so fraught at the end. But I don't feel like we beat Tottenham and we thrashed Chelsea at home, but I feel like we lost some of the glow of that because it was like, it's the title race, we have to win, and that took everything over. So it's quite nice to get like a North London derby win in September where you enjoy it in isolation, particularly with all the context leading up to it. We all knew that we were going to be a bit depleted, we were going to have to do things a little bit differently. But I mean, my day started, I've never done this before, but a lot of fans who go away to Spurs will go and drink in Finsbury Park first, because obviously there's nowhere near the ground where Arsenal fans are welcome.
Right.
Usually I'll go like somewhere else in London, King's Cross, something like that, and tube in. But we went to Finsbury Park and a pub called the Blackstock from 10 a.m. and it was, you could barely move your elbows at 10:15 in the morning. That's what it was like. And it's a mixture of people that are going and a mixture of people who've gone to the pub to watch the game, and almost like a bit of a carnival atmosphere, really, like that bit where you're like, okay, for this bit we're together, like we're with our own people, because when we walk out of here we've got a like straight face, button up, and all of that. But the feeling was, I felt a lot less tense about this game, and I don't know if it's just because I didn't have much time to think about it or anything like that. Like, my daughter's first week at school last week, a very full-on week, and I didn't have that much chance to think about it too much. And I think because it's September as well, and I think I'd said to you, Elliot, on the pod we did together on Tuesday, I'd be okay with a draw type thing. So it didn't feel quite as tense. But to your point, like as soon as we went 1-0 up, I try and have those like honest conversations with myself in my head, and I'm just like, I don't think they're getting through. Like, I don't think they're getting through us. Their recent record is rubbish. I think they've lost 7 of their last 11 league games. Like, I really think Ange's football has been found out. And I was speaking to my good friend Cole, who's a cab driver. Great wisdom cab drivers have. And he was talking about his mate who was a Spurs fan, also a cabbie, and he was just saying, like, doesn't matter who Arsenal have injured, it's very easy to play against Tottenham now. Everyone's worked out. Let them have the ball, sit off, and they can't do anything. So there was all that, and it made me feel a bit more, actually maybe I wouldn't take a point. Like, I feel like we can definitely keep a clean sheet, and then it's either win off a set piece or Saka does something amazing, and it's a set piece. And the other great thing about the goal is our last 5 goals away at Spurs, again, first world problem, have been up the other end, but this was at our end this time, and we'd kind of missed that. In fact, I don't even remember us scoring a goal at that end of the stadium before, so that was really, really nice to get the players close to us and everything. And to your point, like the last 10 minutes, I'll never feel comfortable. That would be a lie. But I thought, if they're going to do something, it's going to be something like a 35-yard shot. And you could feel that the Tottenham fans thought that as well. And you could feel Arsenal fans kind of, I think we all smelt this. And it was great that it came to pass. And we had good few drinks afterwards as well in Euston. And sorry, just to wrap up this ramble, like when you're on the tube, and again, you have to like, you can't smile too much, and maybe you're sat opposite someone in a Spurs shirt and you're sitting there like, and in your head you're like, ha ha, but you can't say anything or do anything. And the further you get away, the more you can like relax and smile a bit and start talking about the game. So they're great days when they go your way. They're unbeatable.
I think your point's really well taken. We had some big rivalry wins late last season, derby wins late last season that we couldn't fully soak up because of the title race. And naturally, of course, we've got this huge away derby win, and it's City away next weekend. And I already see people fretting about who we'll pick and how we'll handle it, and will we rotate for Atalanta. And I guess that's just the season, but I hope people will take at least a couple of days to really soak it up. To your point about them just not having anything to offer. First of all, I know there's going to be a very Arsenal-centric comment. I always got the sense after we took the lead that if they had done something to turn the game around, not that they looked like they could, I always felt if we wanted, we could have had more threat, that we very much shadow boxed with them. Listen to this, guys. This is nuts. We take the lead on the 64th minute. They managed 6 shots after that until the end of the game. Okay? This is kind of crazy if you think about it. They managed 6 shots. a 30-yarder, a 25-yarder, a 30-yarder, a 28-yarder, a 28-yarder, and a 14-yard header that was, from a dead ball that was never close. So 6 shots, and 5 of them were from 30 yards out. 2 of which were blocked, 2 of which were off target, 1 of which was saved. Point is, they just never seemed like they backed themselves. And I think it tells you everything about Tottenham that, well, we've got Maddison. He's better than Odegaard. Blah, blah. Well, Maddison, he gets hooked when they're chasing the game. He wasn't even on to try to be the difference maker. I just think they've got a long way to go. That is not a team that looks close to me. So we wind back a little bit, Clive. And I think Mikel had some comments that really resonated with me because I'm a worrier, and it's good to know he's a worrier. On how the boss had to prepare for this week, he says, I didn't enjoy it because I didn't sleep much. I look at Spurs for 4 or 5 days. I had a super clear plan how to do it. I prepare everything, the session, the meeting. And then one news, we lose a player. Another news, we lose another player. Another news, we lose a player. So I had to completely change it. I liked the plan for the players that we had available, so it was a great challenge. I think this just confirms what we thought, right? Which is that Mikel had to do some last-minute planning. And we talked a lot about what the options were. What do you think of the options he ultimately went with? Bringing in Jorginho, dropping Kai to midfield, bringing in Trossard. He sort of just went next man up. There was no real major change in terms of who he picked.
Yeah, the team made sense. I mean, if he didn't pick this team, given what we knew with Zinchenko going out and Calafiori not being available, we may have asked some questions, really. I mean, Jorginho is the next guy up in midfield, and if he didn't play in this game, I'll be questioning why I signed my contract. Simple as that. Trossard, a fit player, plays regularly, had to come in. Using Trossard in the interior, Martin on the exterior made a lot of sense. How we played, you can call it whatever you like, but 4-4-2, 4-2-4, but it was a game of pairs, really. It was a game of a pair of centre-backs, full-back and wingers, a pair of centre-mids, and a pair of false nines that dropped in under pressure and pushed forward when we need them to. And so it's the sort of football I used to play. Literally when I was growing up, everyone played like that. You literally stood in midfield and your only person you cared about was the guy next to you and distance between you and receiving it off your fullback. That was your game. And 2 strikers. Everyone played 2 strikers, So we went back into pure Mike Bassett land, right? We literally went back to it and it was appropriate. It was appropriate for this game. But what I really enjoyed about the game, Elliot, I'm a team guy, collective guy first. And what I enjoyed was the covering for each other when they got popped or got moved or got run past. I loved the individual spirit, the team spirit to cover for individuals. It just stood out to me. And I've watched it again this morning and it's all over the place. And another thing I really like about this team, we worry about everything. Tim, you were quite cool going to the game. You didn't do 8 podcasts with Elliot last week, stressing you out, right? If you'd have done those 8 podcasts, you wouldn't have been so cool, mate. You know what I mean? And could we focus on every single selection, every single error in the past month? We went through it, right? So, but when you watch a team and they make an error, I look for the body language. I look for the facial expressions. I look for the next thing. And they're just so supportive of each other. Once that mistake's gone, only thing that matters is the next action. And there's just a little simple thing in the corner flag, left back spot. Martinelli kicked one out for a corner. Maybe he could have gone for a throw. He turned around, just sort of nodded, and everyone just G'd him up. And it's over with, right? Defend the corner. And mate, that's the sort of stuff that makes Tim travel the way he has to travel and take his life in his hands. You do that for teams like this. You really do, because they represent everything you ask them to. So I'm absolutely buzzing.
Yeah. I think Mikel made a comment that gave away the game a little bit here, Tim, because it tells you what he thinks of the Jorginho party midfield. And he said, on the way we defended today, I didn't want to. I wanted to press much higher, lose the ball in much better conditions, higher up the pitch, and do that. What I didn't want to do with certain players that we had today missing is expose ourselves to a game that they are incredibly good at. So I have to choose. And the reward, I think, on the other side was much bigger than acquiring certain risks today against this opponent. And I think that's him saying, if I press too high up the pitch with 230-something central midfielders who are limited in their running power, I expose myself to what Spurs are good at, which is real direct central play running right through the midfield and things that we've actually seen this Arsenal exposed to even with Declan Rice and Odegaard in the side a little bit. Think about the Villa game with Morgan Rogers. So we made a choice. He did complain a bit about our passing, the manager saying, that we didn't execute some simple stuff. But I think this is a game for sort of celebrating what went right more than what went wrong. I will say, by the way, we're not going to talk referee today. I don't think it's necessary. He nearly gave himself a rod for his own back with the yellows he gave in the first half. Thankfully, it didn't become an issue. I don't think the Timber incident is much of an incident, so we're going to leave it. There's way too many things to get to other than that. But that comment by Mikel, I think, is really relevant. And there's been a lot of frustration at times in transfer windows because people want Mikel to go out and buy all the shiny attackers. Where are attackers? Why is he always buying defenders? Well, first of all, we have 6 left backs and only 1 is fit. 2 are fit, I guess, Kivior, right? But Tierney's not fit. No surprise there. Tomiyasu's not fit. Calafiore's not fit. Zinchenko's not fit, right? You just go through them. None of them are fit, but Timber was. He's bought these defensive players, and you go to Spurs, and they're going to have 65% of the ball, and you don't have your difference makers in the other area of the pitch. And you have to be able to rely on the performance of those players at the back. And this is a game that validates building from the back, because what Spurs can't do is lock a game down and look for their moment. But we have shown that we can, and that's going to stand us in good stead when we go to the Etihad next weekend as well. So let's just talk for a minute about the performance of these defenders. And in particular, obviously, Saliba, Gabriel, and I think Timber, who's a quiet hero. Gabriel will get the Man of the Match award, and rightfully so. Timber, playing, I think, in the most natural left back role he's done so far this season, right? Not that complex multifactorial equation algebra crap he has to do when he inverts and does it. Much more traditional, and he looked great. So we built from the back, and that was the basis of our win in the derby,
Yeah, and it was always going to have to be. That's where a lot of our strength in our team exists anyway. But with the players we had out, this is just one of the things I really love about this coach and this team, that they respect the game. They respect all sides of the game. They do what the game demands. And this was always going to be a game that demanded this, even without the absences. To be honest, I read this morning that Spurs are top for possession in the Premier League so far this season. They got 4 points from 4 games. So what are teams doing to them? They're just sitting off and just saying, we'll let you have the ball. Yep. You've got some dumb players. You've got a guy at centre-back who's really dumb, and a goalkeeper that's glued to his goal line. So we'll let you have the ball, and you'll give us something. You'll give us something. It's exactly actually like late Wenger Arsenal. Or even Emery Arsenal, where it's just like, Mustafi or Xhaka will have like a brain fart moment and we'll get something off you, with 30% of the ball. So I think that approach was justified anyway, but this was like watching George Graham's Arsenal when they won the Cup Winners' Cup. This was like Torino and games like that. Keep it tight, win it off a set piece. And I've said before, I love that. You cannot play like that in every game and win the league, but you cannot win the league without playing games like that. And we had to do that. And that was the thing that gave me a bit of confidence going into this game. I thought, we can keep them out. They haven't got Harry Kane anymore. So they're less likely to dive and get their penalty that they always get. That doesn't really happen that often against Spurs nowadays. And I backed us to keep a clean sheet. And so I kind of thought, worst case, then we get 0-0. Like, I think we can get 0-0. I think we can get 1-0. We didn't deserve more than 1. We didn't create very much, but we didn't have to. And when that goal went in, and I looked at the scoreboard and I looked at how long was left, I kind of thought, I think we can hold them. I really do. Like, I think we will go into, virtually deep block mode here. And I think we'll be all right unless they pull something out the bag that's really, really a bit silly or remarkable. And if they do that, like, fair enough. There's not much you can do about it. So this was definitely a game for those players, and maybe we'll talk about him. But I love that Gabriel gets his kind of flowers. That centre-back partnership. Most games when you want to dominate possession, you want to defend on the halfway line, like Saliba drives a lot of that. Gabriel does that as well. He's very good at defending on the halfway line. But when it's kitchen sink stuff, this was a Gabriel game. in terms of defending. And yeah, I think you're right about Timber as well. And Ben White's just a unicorn. He can do everything that you want a right back to do. So yeah, and Jorginho and Partey as well. I think they recognise their own limitations as well. Jorginho, like a bit more advanced. We've seen him do that before. I think he's a better better presser. But those two players were mature enough to understand as well. Like, yeah, I'm not as fast as some of the guys I'm going to be facing, so I'm not going to expose myself. And yeah, this was a day for pragmatism, and I just love that this team is so capable of that.
Clive?
Yeah, I think, shape-wise, you could see it really quickly. The only debate was at the start of the game, who's going to be centre forward, Trossard or Havertz, and they sort of both were when they needed to be. So they shared the work. So one would go long and the other one would come and get it. Trossard would go to left wing.
Can I stop you just for a second on that?
Mm-hmm.
Just for 1 second, because the one thing I think there was a lot of concern about that and agitation about that. In a game where you have the ball a lot, that feels like it maybe matters more. Off the ball, our 4-4-2 is very clear, right? So Trossard and Leo were always going to be the two at the top of the two banks of four, right? In our defensive block. So that doesn't change much. And we didn't have the ball a lot, so it really didn't matter.
Yeah, it's what we did speak about this last week. We said there's a game. Yeah. One of our patrons sent us a note and said there's a game to miss Odegaard for. It's the off the ball games, and we've got Spurs and City coming up, and they are off the ball games, right? So yeah, for me it's all about distances, and it's all about recognizing there was only the period in the game when we didn't get our distances right, and Kulusevski ran in behind Jorginho twice. And I don't blame him for that. That was somebody in his first 90 hitting the wall. You hit the wall in your first game, and he stayed on the pitch. He had a terrible 5 minutes where he just couldn't find anybody, got booked, and then he had two people run off him. And then you know what? He got second win. And after the goal, he said, I'm not coming off. He got cramped, and he just turned into the captain. I mean, the leader of the team. He was absolutely shepherding everybody around. And, people have to understand what makes a team. I saw a quote from Gabriel last week saying that when Jorginho goes, I don't know what I'm going to do, paraphrasing. Because he's like the father in the dressing room. When he left the Chelsea dressing room, they still haven't replaced him. They still haven't replaced him as the individual.
They've replaced him numerically. Let's be clear about that. They've got 740 players.
There's a psychological and emotional part of a team. Odegaard is that player for us, and when he's not there, Jorginho's going to play. And the team need that. They still need that. I saw it first with Declan Rice. Declan Rice had some iffy moments when Jorginho came in and he settled down. I saw Jorginho get Havertz going. He gets him going. When Kivior was struggling at left back, what did we do? Move Jorginho to that side, and he had an exit pass, and Kivior could play 10 games in a row, and we were fine. He is more than just his speed and his ability to pass even on occasions, and even ability to protect the ball. Emotionally, this team needs this guy on occasions, and this was the right occasion for him. And very simple game tactically, Elliot. Honestly, mate, all about distances, front to back, partnerships, heroes within this team. So many heroes. Bukayo Saka's right back play was stunning, and I have to say, in the IR yesterday, I sort of had my on the ball brain on and wanted chances to go in the net, and I give Martinelli a little bit of stick, not a lot, a little bit of stick. Watch the game this morning, mate. He was tremendous off the ball, absolutely tremendous. And the reason why they were focusing in that half space, Jorginho is his first game, and he covered for him massively covered for him, got around him, supported him, and supported Timber. So he had the two players who had not done a 90 yet all around him, and I thought he looked after him fantastically well. It's interesting, he had an interview with the club afterwards, which sort of tells me they knew what he did. Do you know what I mean? They always bring a good player up. They knew what he did. And I thought, Clive, you need to be better than that, mate, and look at it closely. It's not just about passing conviction and your chance creation, sorry. It's your job for the team on this particular day, and I thought he was brilliant. Really did.
Yeah, Yeah, the interesting thing, we talked about it last week, what the tactics would be. I think it was on the main pod, the Thursday pod. And, I said, I'm fine with a filthy mid-block 4-4-2 that becomes a 4-2-4. I'm fine with that. And I understand that when you're thinking about the derby and you want to puff out your chest and say we're better than them, like I understand the desire to maybe do things another way. But I think Mikel's comment about, not wanting to play in a way that plays into their strengths is key. And they're shit. And they're going to give you chances on the counter, and they create very little. What did we want to do? It was so obvious. Not let them attack through the middle, force them out wide, funnel them out wide, let our wingers come in and double up, and just let them bang their head against the wall. And then when we have the chance to spring. Clive, yep.
Sorry, man, I missed one thing. The only time we were in danger was when we attacked badly. Because they could counter on us. That's the only time we were in danger. From settled possession, we were fine, apart from a couple of runs down that corner. But every time we made a bad decision, when Saliba pushed forward and Trossard should have gone behind, but he tried to cut it to him, and suddenly Trossard, he ran his backside off to cover it behind. But we were caught then on occasions, and sometimes we were late getting back in from our attacks. That's the only time they had anything. That tells you the sort of game that he didn't want to fall into, which was a transitional game where they could outrun us with the more attackers on the pitch, outrun us and create gaps in our tight unit. And he forsake that and played a game very similar to Man City at home last year, where we were very tight and then sprang out late in the game and won the game 1-0. So, yeah, really good, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you. I'd actually go further. I'd say that the time we looked most vulnerable wasn't just when we attacked poorly. So we just gave them the ball in our defensive third. There were just a couple of moments. There was Ben White giving it away and Saliba had to clean it up. There was Thomas Partey. I kind of understand what he was trying to do. Remember, guys, he knocks the ball. I guess he's trying to just knock it to Gabriel in the box, but it doesn't quite get as far as you want. And that's when Gabriel has to stick his foot in, and it's a bit 50-50. But other than those little mistakes, and Mikel did call those out, some simple passes that he feels we didn't play very well. We did well. I guess what we could do, because I want to roll back, but since we talked about Gabriel, I'll read these comments, then I want to ask you about the limbs, Tim. So on Gabriel's performance, Mikel says, I think the way he has evolved, first of all, as a person, and then on his role at the club and the team has been phenomenal. It's great to watch. This is why we are here. This is one of my passions, to give players the environment, to give players the support, the education, the coaching, to grow and prepare them for life and to prepare them to get to levels that probably they didn't think before. And Gabby is certainly one of the best examples of that. Why? Because he loves what you do. He applies himself incredibly well and he wants it. And when that happens, normally good things happen to this kind of people. So, he goes more big character there about Gabby than anything else. And I think it's interesting, right? Because I don't think that would be the kind of comment you'd say about a Saliba. Saliba's a Rolls-Royce footballer. Maybe what he's trying to say is Gabriel is a guy who has worked hard to be better than maybe what the initial raw materials were. But that goal that he scores, you see what it means to him. I think Bukayo Saka deserves huge credit because, Nicholas Jover gets big praise from Mikel after the match. And he gets big praise deservedly because we get a lot of goals from his set pieces. But you don't get a goal if that ball doesn't land right on the head of a big center back 5 yards out, dead center of the goal, while Vicario has an absolute Ospina-esque view of it. Your thoughts on the limbs, the goal, the moment, what was it like in the away end? Because to your point, we haven't celebrated a goal at Spurs in the away end like that in a while, a winner like that. And on Gabriel, Gabriel being a hero and a hero who, because he plays next to a guy who's so celebrated, has to do the big things to get noticed,
Yeah, definitely. And Saliba, even when he came to us, was like this child prodigy that we'd paid like nearly 30 million for as an 18-year-old, and what a steal that's proven to be, by the way. But with Gabriel, like it wasn't like a show-stopping signing, was it? It was like, okay, moving on from Mustafi and David Luiz and players like that, and you think, okay, he looks solid, but he just keeps going up levels. He really, really does. He plays every minute of every game, and he plays every minute of every game like it's the last minute of his life. The way he really commits himself, and you need that. You need kind of light and shade in your defensive partnership. We saw it with like Tony Adams and Steve Bold. We saw it with Martin Keown and Tony Adams. We saw it with Toure and Campbell and all these great centre-half partnerships Arsenal have had. Saliba and Gabriel belongs right up there with all of those, and has a very good shout for being the best one, quite frankly. And of course, like I think also with the goal, because it comes from a counter-attack where actually it's one of the few times Tottenham did look dangerous. So that gets the kind of blood up, as it were. You see like a big defensive interception, the other end from Gabriel. Then you go on the break. Then you get the corner, and it's at your end. And you know that we're so dangerous from corners. Not only are we so dangerous from corners, Spurs are very weak because they just have they might as well have a punch bag in goal. Quite frankly, for those corners, like he doesn't even get his hands up. He's just, you know that what's that? There's a bit in Family Guy where there's like this guy's advertising this toy that's just got like big
wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man.
Yes, exactly that. I knew you'd nail that.
You stepped out of your Simpsons world, but I was there for you.
Yeah, that's what he's like. That's what he's just like standing there, like arms waving, like he's at a rave or something. Like that man needs like a whistle and some glow sticks. But yeah, and then you know the header kind of crashing in front of you, and like at Spurs in the away end they have safe standing as well, the kind of rail seating, and what that means people do is they move around seats. So you know there are about 3 people in my seat anyway, so you're all like squashed in. But the rail seating allows you to like stagger a little bit, so like one of you can lean and then like someone else can be behind, and you know it's almost like Tetris a little bit. But when a goal goes in, you know that kind of carefully organized kind of storage facility type thing goes out the window, and you're all over each other, and yeah, like just because of the logistics of the away credit system, I wasn't sat with my friends, I sat on my own. But obviously when a goal like that goes in, whoever is within 2-3 yards of you is your best friend in the world at that moment. Yeah. And the gentleman to my right, I think I was on his back at some point, so I've no idea if he's listening, but apologies for that. And yeah, and huge, and Gabriel's the right player because he'll celebrate that goal in the right way as well. There's no non-celebration. There's no calm down. There's no finger to the lips. Like that's a guy who's going to grab the badge and scream in your face, and that's exactly what you want at that moment in time.
And you see what the partnership with Saliba means as Saliba celebrates him in that moment. It's a special thing that they have. And I'm so glad. You know, there are times I wish I lived in London so I could be at the Arsenal every weekend. Then there are times I'm so glad I'm not there, because there are things that happen in English media that do my head in and absolutely would have me on Pluto constantly. And unfortunately, I was exposed to a Sky Sports segment of them debating whether there was a foul in that corner kick goal, and saying that there probably was one and it should have been disallowed. And like, I couldn't control the rage I was feeling, as I had been gaslighted into being told Gabriel wasn't fouled for the Newcastle goal a couple seasons ago, but there's nothing. Be stronger. I'm sorry, Barkley's men. We were talking about Barkley's men all week, and we're calling that a foul. No, get out with that crap. Be stronger. Mm-hmm.
The thing is, Elliot, with all of this that I think I'm coming to realize as well, it's content, right? Yeah. And I think we're coming to a stage where actually, like the league and the powers that be know that nothing gets people talking, like. Refereeing decisions or trying to generate controversy. So Monday morning,
tribalism,
yeah, Sky Sports News do Ref Watch, and then like Dale Johnson releases his silly little column that's like, all the referees were brilliant and you're all idiots, and like that kind of rage baiting, like is content. And just go and look at Sky Sports Twitter feed right now, because it's all like, was this a foul? Thinking emoji, like it. All it is. I know this is a really obvious statement, but like, I think Howard Webb knows it as well. Howard Webb is like changing the way games are refereed so that referees are at the center of everything. Howard Webb is taking charge of PGMOL. Like he is aware that referees are content now, and I think when stuff like that egregious comes up, we do just kind of have to ignore it, because they know Arsenal fans will run with it. They know that the Arsenal fans will run with it.
I don't want to spend time on a derby celebration talking too much about this, but I will just add this, you guys, because this worries me. The way games are being refereed this season is much more officious, much more referee-centered, much more noticeable, more cards, more calls, more referee focus and it's worrying to me. I mean, we saw the record for yellow cards broken this weekend, and then it looked like it was going to be broken again in the derby. This is not an accident, and it is a little worrying, but it is what it is. Now, I'll tell you something, guys. Leading up to the derby, I wanted to consume as much content as I could to keep my nerves from spilling over too much. So, of course, I listened to Andrew's preview pod on his Patreon, and we did pods. And so then I found myself listening to some generalist pods, like mass media pods, which I've kind of cut out of my diet. And here's the problem. The analysis just isn't very good. It focuses on controversy and it focuses on narrative. And so that's what they're left doing. But yeah, it does my head in, because it's like, no, that's not a foul. Anyway, I do think Mikel, so I'll give you the Jover quotes just really quickly on Nicholas Jover. In his field and other fields as a person, the relationship we have, that's why I made a decision to bring him to City when I was there, and then to Arsenal. Him and the staff that have injected belief to the players that there are many ways to win football matches, and that this is a really powerful one. He's given us a lot, so big compliment to them. The other thing that I really like that he said on the squad's character, Clive, the people that we have, I think I already spoke about it during the week, people that are harder, they have thick skin, they love the game and they love winning. In order to love the game and win, you have to do a lot of things. Sometimes people call them ugly. Enjoying doing those ugly things is a big compliment to this team right now. And when you're able to normally, you get a good gift. Clive, I don't think anyone sums up being willing to win ugly maybe more than Kai Havertz, who does every job all over the pitch all the time. And I don't think we win this game without him. And I think Martin Odegaard gives us something that, and Declan Rice do. They give us something that goes beyond their technical quality, which is their running power and their ground coverage, their pitch coverage. And Kai had to replace kind of both of those things, because we had two central midfielders that couldn't give that to us, obviously. Trossard, I think, tried to do his best. To your point, Martinelli, I thought, was excellent at it, as was Saka. But Kai Havertz, we get the goal. I think we should point this out. The goal comes from, what does it come from? A hopeless long ball up the pitch that Kai is first to, wins, holds it up, creates a counter that then turns into the corner that becomes the goal. And that's a good bit into the game here, that he's been running a lot of pitch and he chases that down. I just think what we have in Kai Havertz, Clive, is a guy who technically is at the level. But I don't think I understood the engine we were getting in this player and his ability to do so many roles within the course of a game. He was brilliant, I thought.
Yeah, he's a marathon runner, basically. He just continues to move. He's built like one, isn't he? If he was on the 10,000 meters at start line at the Olympics, he'd look like one of those runners, And and he can just move. And he's so clever, though. There was a pass before he played to Martinelli, and he was on the run with Van der Ven, and he shouldn't have passed it. And Van der Ven was already on the move, and Martinelli got outpaced. Oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Recognize the player you're playing against and try to stop him, and then start him. So this time, when the balls were down the side, I think it was a party header, and I think it might have been a timber clearance, and bang down the side. He leaves the space in the sides because they're stupid. They're going to leave you that space. Porro and the doggy are just never where they should be, right? And so he starts central and runs into the wide areas. And rather than taking for a run, he stops him, lays it off, knowing he's got to start chasing after the ball like a rabbit. And then he goes back to, I think it's Martinelli or Trossard. He whips it out to Saka, and Saka plays for the corner. He's right in front of the away fans, and he literally kicked it off him. Just smart. He did it, Tim, didn't he? He just literally played for the corner. And rather than, because he knows his teammate's not going to be in the box, so don't cross it away to get an ooh. Just have a settled attack. So he plays for the corner. He did it a couple of times in the game, actually. And then took his time, went over there and delivered it. So back to Havertz. Well, we said it before, Elliot. I think he's our most tactically important player. And there's a difference between saying best player. You can take your choice who our best player is. There's a number of them now who are competing for it. But whenever I think there's a problem in the team, whether we can't get out, whether we can't get central access, whether we need to do some more running and working, whether we need someone to spin into the wide areas, we need a little bit of certainty of possession. He provides all the solutions, mate. We need back post heading. The amount of defensive clearances he's done, I haven't looked at data yet, but he seemed to be clearing them corners away and crosses away. I think Spurs had 30 plus crosses and we dealt with them. And he's part of that story too, particularly at the front post.
Mhm.
He's just a very good all-round player. A surprise to me, actually. A player that I always liked when he was younger, but I just saw him as a goal scorer, an attacking mid-goal scorer. I didn't know he was a roll the sleeves up guy. And it's almost between him and Gabriel. I mean, there's a few that I don't want to say that. It sounds a bit generalistic.
Yeah, don't
But
leave Timber out.
yeah, I suddenly started to realise as I was saying it. But
Mhm.
it's almost as though the team was in his image on this day, you know? But there was a number of players like that. But he did, when we play Odegaard football, we're a different team. We almost played Havertz football, if you know what I mean, because that's what we had available. And that adaptation is what I love. I love that. I love the fact that people are now sitting there, Elliot, and we'll be part of this story too, wondering what sort of team we are. Because statistically, where are we? What are we showing? What face are we showing? Are we an attacking team? Are we a defensive team? Are we a transition team? Are we a pressing team that holds people in the half? This season, I think we've done all of it. And it's only a few games in. We've done all of it. So that just bodes well for the future, and it bodes well when we get all our players back. Right? That's the most important thing.
Yeah. As a note, this is the lowest expected goals Spurs have had in a game since they went to the Etihad in December of 2023. You know, we were able to shut them down, and we probably should have. I mean, look, I don't want to do too much what if, but I think if Odegaard and Rice played, this isn't even close. I mean, the ease with which we were able to turn them around when we got our foot on the ball, it just, as it happens, we didn't necessarily have some of our players who were most confident and comfortable in those transition moments. I do want to touch on the big Martinelli moment just quickly. And I want to talk a little bit about being a team that rises to the occasion. This is a major change, by the way, that I think has maybe gone under the radar over the years. But before I do that, I should probably, it'd be irresponsible if I didn't tell you about NordVPN, because you'd be sitting there and you'd be going, yeah, Darby, but what about the VPN? I need a VPN. So let me at least let you know that NordVPN is the one I use. It's an app. You can put it on your phone, on your iPad, on your tablet. You could literally put NordVPN on probably like a old like computer from the 1980s. I don't know that, those don't connect to the internet, so don't do that. You can put NordVPN on just about anything. If it plugs into the wall, you can put it on it, like a lamp. You can have your lamp VPN in somewhere else. I don't know. Point is this. If you want to watch videos that are geo-blocked on social media, if you want to watch summary shows of, matches of that day that are geo-blocked, if you want to watch the football when you're out of the country and you want to go back to your streaming service, or you want to sign up for streaming services in foreign countries where they're cheaper and then you save money doing that, there's a lot of reasons to use a VPN, not to mention that football fans, we do sometimes wind up watching dodgy streams. You want to be on a VPN for that, and you certainly want threat protection. Nord gives you all of that, plus great speeds. I should mention great speeds with Nord. Here's the thing. We have a really good deal that they've given for the podcast. So if you're thinking of doing a VPN, Nord would be one I'd recommend. And this would be the deal you'd want. You get an exclusive deal. It's nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. You get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus 4 additional months on top. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So it's nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision, nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now, Clive. Is that enough of that?
Indeed.
Nailed it. Tim, just quick. You can't praise the team for an ugly, determined, organized, defensively committed performance and then criticize a player who gave that for not executing in the attacking third. But I do think it is at least worth referencing this. Gabriel Martinelli was sensational helping back. I thought he and Saka both did. And look, the plan was to funnel them wide. So if your plan is to funnel them wide and not let them attack down through the middle, you need to be committed to recovering out wide and making sure that you're helping each other. And Martinelli did that. But the moment where he's played in, I think, is it Trossard that plays him in? Pretty sure it is. He's in. And by the way, got in down that side time and time again. Now, I want to make a point, because this is really important. In the 18th minute, he got past his man to the byline, and he stands up across to the back post. And Kai rises highest, and he heads back across Vicario. And Vicario saves with a little help from Romero, I want to say. I do think Kai could go near post and score. I don't think it's the perfect choice. Headers are hard. He hits it hard. It's fine. But it's a really nice job for Martinelli to beat his man and stand up across. I thought he did really well there. 1 minute later, he's in, 19th minute. And Saka is just clean through and clear. It's just slided across the box. We've seen this goal scored time and time again by teams against Spurs. You get in behind, you slide it across, it's a goal. He doesn't pass it, nor does he take it far enough to, I think, really give himself a good chance for the finish that he tries. It winds up being more of a back pass than anything else. He shoots it straight into the arms of Vicario. On another day, maybe I'd be more critical of this. If you're playing Leicester at home, for example, in a game where you have all the attacking impetus, but because he did so much good work defensively, I don't think we get this result without what Martinelli gave us on the left. So I am inclined to show grace here and say a brilliant performance from Martinelli in the ugly parts of the game. That was a big moment, though. So do you have thoughts? Because I feel like with Martinelli, he got into the dangerous positions he didn't execute. And it feels like a player that, for God's sakes, if he can get a goal or make a right pass, make a right decision in the final third, and get this weight off his shoulders, it could just go bang for him, because this feels more like it's in his head than in his boots,
Yeah, definitely. I think that definitely impacts the decision he makes, to take that shot on. I think it's because, not just because he's not been scoring, but like, who's the guy keeping him out of the team? Why is that guy keeping out of the team? Because he scores all the time. So it is a big weight. I'm with you. I thought he played really, really well in this game, and I'd be a lot more worried if he just wasn't picking up the positions at all. But clearly, he needs something to go in. It's almost like I think we're almost at Kai Havertz Bournemouth penalty type phase. But actually, I wrote a piece about Havertz last week, and we look a lot at that penalty that he was kind of given by his teammates at Bournemouth. But that wasn't the click moment for Havertz, and maybe that's because psychologically I was given that. I want to do this for real now. It's after the Brentford game when he comes on as a sub and heads in the winner. That's when it all changes for Kai Havertz at Arsenal. And you look at the patterns of how many minutes he plays after that game. He goes from like in and out the team a little bit. When he starts, he gets subbed, and he very quickly becomes this guy plays 90 minutes in every game type player. He's fallen into that group, not fallen into that group. He's worked his way into that group now. And Martinelli needs a Brentford moment, like a big moment, I think, to really go for him, just so that in those positions, because he is taking out the positions. I thought he worked really hard. I thought he provided an outlet as well, like he was a threat going forwards. Pedro Porro, I think, is one of Tottenham's stupid players. They've got a few, and he's one of them. And I think he gave him trouble in behind there. And actually, this is the first time I think we've seen Trossard and Martinelli play close together, which was really interesting, because Trossard is very good at kind of picking the ball up and picking those passes. But so I thought very good performance from Martinelli. If he'd scored like last week or something, or even 2 weeks ago, like we'd barely have a comment on Martinelli's performance other than really good, well done. But clearly there's the context of not having that end product yet, and clearly it's on his mind. It's really clear, I think, that it's on his mind, and he just needs, I don't even think just a goal, because do you remember last season he was kind of going through it a bit, then he got 2 late goals against Palace when we were 3-0 up, and then he got injured shortly after that, but even that didn't, I think it needs to be a big goal, like maybe like the one he scored against Man City last season, like something, it feels like, which was a deflection as well. Like something big needs to click for him. Something big needs to happen for him, I think. But I'm very, very, very pleased with his performance. That made all the sense in the world to play him, not least because, we needed Trossard in midfield anyway. But I would have started Martinelli anyway because of that threat in behind. I think he usually performs pretty well in this fixture. And you know what you're getting in the other direction as well. This guy is going to go and help out the left back as well.
Yeah, 6 of 8 on his take-ons in this game. The entire Spurs team completed 7 of 24. He was 6 of 8. We were 12 of 22 overall. So he was really providing that elusiveness and that threat. And you just see the importance of pace. You have to have that pace somewhere on the pitch, especially against a team like Spurs. And I think, by the way, you probably need that against a team like City as well. So that's one to keep an eye out for.
I'd just say as well, just quickly on that, when Sterling came on as well, like he lost the ball you could tell he was rusty, lost the ball a couple of times, and it makes you realise, like, if Martinelli was 4 out of 8 or 3 out of 8 on those take-ons, that's like 5 transitions moments that Spurs get. They nicked a couple off Sterling at the end.
Yeah, it's funny. We'll talk about the subs just a little bit because I do want to talk about Nwaneri, but it's when I saw the lineup, there's that part of you that's like, oh, could he have started Sterling here? Could he have started Jesus instead of Trossard? And then you see them come on and you're like, no, Mikel knew what he was doing. Like they didn't look particularly sharp or ready, and I realize that's a hard game to come into cold and get up to pace. I think there was the flashpoint, Clive. We haven't talked about it because it's not that big, but Timber goes quote unquote over the ball. And then, there's the fight. I think Poro went over the ball too, by the way. He stamps down. Poro fakes it. I mean, Timber, I don't even think he makes contact. He gets a yellow. It's certainly not a red. I will say, I don't know that that's the technique you want to go into the ball with. If you're Timber, some people have said he's just trying to control it. I don't like when you go in that over the ball stepping down motion, because if the timing's wrong or a player gets his leg underneath, you're exposing yourself to a red card risk. But there is the fight. Vicario getting in there. Timber certainly stands up for himself. And all the Arsenal players come over and support one another. We've seen Arsenal teams not react that way, leave their teammates to just kind of get bullied by other teams. This team doesn't do that. They rallied to each other. Do you think that moment mattered? I mean, I know that narrative is fun and people like to make bigger things out of these moments, but what did you think about that flashpoint?
Yeah, and just going back to Martinelli for a moment, I just want to say that when he made that chance from Trossard's flick through, he'd already made a 50-yard doggy to win the ball defensively. Then he turned around and did another 50-yard go the other direction. And when he got to the final bit, he actually was tired. And you could tell a tired shot because he fell away. So he fell away too early, and his shot was he telegraphed his shot because he fell away. And that tells you he's tired. When he's fit, you hold your core stronger, longer, and you're straighter, and you punch it. And he fell away, and it was a back pass. So I just watched that this morning. On the Timber thing, this is the fine line stuff, right? Because, and let's put our hands up and praise VAR, right? Because a referee could have easily, on the human eye, just gone over the top of the ball. That's a red. Right, and it could have easily happened. And our old afternoons are different, and we're questioning Timber. We're saying he didn't do well on the interior when we went inverted left back. He's gone to the derby. And he's got himself sent off in the first half. Right, that's the fine lines of football. The fact that Timber went into the ball, he rolled over it, but he lifted his leg, and the VAR was smart enough to see that. Smarter than Jamie Redknapp, thank goodness, to see that. And I think so we've sat here and criticised it, but that really worked for us, that really worked for us. And that's where technology can help. So we have to praise it, because in the heat of the moment, it could have gone the other way, down the home end, in the corner. Mate, that's red cards land, in the old times. Easy peasy. But then, of course, we're going to have a row, and I actually loved it, mate. Watch Bukayo Saka go in there, and he's gone in and he's just sorted them out, and they're all in together. Saliba sprinted over. I'm thinking, mate, stay away. You're on the yellow. Stay away. Don't get involved. We need you. We need you for City. And but yeah, the whole approach to the game from a team perspective was really, really strong. We look strong. We look so supportive of each other. We look so strong in these moments. And I could see Timber falling over. I could see him fading. I could see Jorginho fading. I could see Partey tucking to the centre back. And so I need a rest in here. I could see Ben White, who looked a bit leggy on occasions, then stand still and fight his way back into it. And how they helped each other through those dark moments was really, really good. And I think as a set of fans, I'm learning to see that and recognise that when someone is doing the right thing, but they've not executed, it's the next thing. Even on the Ben White inside pass, it was the right thing. Could he have done it in one before the gap squeezed? But you can't say that's not Arsenal football. It's just a fraction off, and they get a toe. But look at Saliba's reaction. Bang. Straight in. Real sprint from him to close it down. And Ben White's clapping Tim and the fans in the corner at the end of a victory, and no one cares about that moment anymore. Do you know what I mean? No one cares. They all care about how he settled down in the game. And so, yeah, I think how the team support each other, that's just another example of it, Elliot. But, mate, fine lines, mate. It could have been a disaster if it wasn't for VAR.
Yeah. If that's a red, look, I don't like the technique. Like I said, I don't think you should go in that way. But that's just not a red. It just isn't. Whether it's a yellow or not, who cares at this point? So let's do this first. And I want to talk about being the team that doesn't have the bozo gene, but on the win and what it says about our players. I think this is a great quote from Mikel, that they adapt. Loving the game means you're able to do things regardless of context. Jorginho, he loves the game. He doesn't play it, but he loves winning. I mean, when he's not playing, he's training like an animal at his age after winning everything. So when you ask him to play 90 minutes, like he hasn't played probably for the last 5 months, he's able, even cramping everywhere, managed to do it. The same with Urian. He's been out. He hasn't played 90 minutes at all, and he was struggling today, but he managed to do it for the team. And like all these guys, I don't know, without a preseason, I don't know how many minutes he's played, and he was unbelievable, all of them. But that's the spirit and the characters that we have that I love. When you watch a football match, you're not running around, presumably. So you forget how tired the guys are. You forget stuff. You forget that Thomas Partey has played 90 minutes in all of our Premier League fixtures now. You forget that Jorginho hasn't played in 5 months and played 90 minutes. Urian Timber's back from an ACL, hasn't played 90 minutes in over a year, played 90 minutes. And that their lungs have to be bursting, that their muscles have to be burning. And so I think when you look at the game in that context, Tim, what do you think about the players, especially, Jorginho and Partey, relying on them to get through this game? Especially you could see Jorginho just cramping up, and trying to stay out there and try and do things. And by the way, I don't think we didn't press a lot, but we pressed a bit. We had to. You can't just stay camped in. And the guy who orchestrated that, the guy who organized that, it was Jorginho. That's where I think he is stronger. You referenced that. So, he is a leader out there on the pitch. And he obviously has a bit of a bad memory of the home derby last season, coming on and making a critical contribution that cost us points. I just think it's a heroic performance, not necessarily in terms of elite quality, but elite commitment from players who gave 90 minutes, who haven't done that in a long time and were asked to do it in the toughest of circumstances,
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of these guys were at the Euros as well. Like Saka went all the way. There can't be many players in Europe who played more minutes than Saka over the summer. Same with Declan Rice as well, obviously out of this game, but goes off in the first game with cramp. Kai Havertz really become a key player for Germany. They've all been away and played 90 minutes for their countries as well, like coming back into this with little to no preparation. And
yeah, by the way, City aren't even using Rodri or Foden yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? By comparison.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got to do that stuff. It really reminds me of, there's a quote from Bertie Mee, I think, when Arsenal won the double in the 70s. And he said, maybe things have changed in this day and age a little bit. But he was, basically his line was, really a team only plays its best, maybe 5 or 6 times a season if you're like a title contender. And he was like, the rest of the time, you got to find a way, because you're not going to be perfect. And we knew before this game that we weren't going to be perfect, that we were going to have to win the game this way. And the fact that we can kind of George Graham it a bit. And, to reference another quote, when you guys were talking earlier about what kind of team are Arsenal, it reminded me of, was it Rob Edwards, the Luton manager last year, who just kind of said, no matter what you do to them, they've got the answer. Like, if you're physical, if you turn it into a running game, if you deep block them, if you take them on, they've just got an answer to everything. And it really that's what makes, as a supporter, these victories so satisfying. I don't imagine, the North London derby is usually one of the most entertaining fixtures of the season, and I think neutral fans really like watching it. So I reckon, the TV numbers for this would have been very, very good, and you'd have had fans all over the country tuning in, used to seeing these games being 3-3, or even a couple of months ago when we went there, we had a bit of bozo gene and gave them a 3-2. But I don't think anyone in the country enjoyed watching this other than Arsenal fans, and I couldn't care less.
I hope not.
and I think another player I was going to mention David Raya as well, because I thought he was great. His handling so good, and these games, and you really appreciate it when you're there. And I know this is a statement in the obvious. They are different. Away at Spurs is different. Look at even 20 years ago when we were the Invincibles and they're finishing 15th. We'd draw there. Like, the mean Premier League result in this fixture is a draw, right? Even at our most dominant, we weren't winning at Spurs away very often. And that's because it's different as a game. It just is, like, the atmosphere that you play it in, and you have to manage that. You have to manage the temperature. And I thought David Raya was amazing at that as well. And like the tension from your own fans, because everyone is so anxious. If you misplace a pass, you've got 3,000 people screaming at you, myself included, because the tension is so high and it means so much to everyone that it's just different. You've got like 50 odd thousand people that hate you, and then you've got 3,000 of your people in the corner. But if you miscontrol the ball, they hate you for 3 seconds as well. Like, it's a real pressure cooker of a game. And I thought Arsenal, some of the characters we mentioned, Havertz, Jorginho, I think Raya, Gabriel, like, they managed the context of the game as well as the game. And that's not easy. Some very, very good Arsenal teams haven't managed to do that as well.
Yeah, David Raya had the ball at his feet as much as anyone. He played as
he was an outlet.
Joint most passes in our team, along with Ben White. And he didn't complete them all. Obviously, some of his long kicking was a little erratic. Some of it was excellent. But it's the point that
he helped us get out the press. He kept coming out and make almost like a midfielder. He was like,
yes,
pass it to me. I'm not under pressure, and we'll get out. Like that was it. It was almost similar to like Havertz's role in terms of like being that release valve. Like, right, they're on top of you, give it to me, and don't worry about it. I think Jorginho and Partey passed to each other twice in this game, and that's a lot of that was because Raya was brave and going over to the corner flag and just, he was, to borrow one of Clive's phrases, he was our 11th outfielder in this game.
Yeah, and I mean, look, people are sick to death of me hearing about that time we went to Newcastle and Ramsdale kicked it long a bunch. They're sick of it, I know. But this is a cauldron. This is the derby. This is away. It's a nervy place. You're standing outside of your goal mouth. You're standing in no man's land, asking for the ball at your feet and still having to play it calmly to the next man in the next place to keep the ball ticking over. He did it. And we should also mention the way to your point, the way he claims crosses, the way he holds shots, it just takes all the heat out of it. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. By the way, just a quick side note, you guys, we haven't done a lot of data, but I'll just give you this because I think it's pretty wild, right? So we completed just 73% of our passes in this game. That is obviously not very Arsenal-esque. Okay. You got guys completing 50% of their passes, like Urian Timber, for example. All right. William Saliba attempted 35 passes in this game. William Saliba completed 34 passes in this game. He's 97.1%, 34 of 35. He's just so, I don't want to go over the top, but it's just the point that you have to have a player like that who can get the ball 35 times and complete it 34 times at the back so that you're not under pressure. It's a really special thing that he does, and I love that player. We'll do this. I want to do the subs, and then I want to do just a bigger picture thing, some bigger picture stuff to wrap up. But Clive, the subs are an interesting one. So obviously a lot of players we mentioned had to go 90 minutes, but there were some subs, mostly in the attacking zones. The first two were Jesus and Sterling for Martinelli and Leo, probably two players that Mikel considered starting, to be honest. And then Nwaneri does come on in the 86th minute for Saka, who Mikel, all we know is that Mikel said he could not continue. Someone commented to me that they thought it looked like maybe it might have been a dead leg, like he might have gotten a knee to...
Just cramps. Just cramps.
Or cramp.
It's already been
so
confirmed today, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. So there you go. No issue on Saka, but Nwaneri did come on. Before we talk Nwaneri, let's talk just Jesus and Sterling for a minute. I have to admit, two players I thought maybe we should start. Two players, based on their little cameo, I'm probably glad we didn't start. It looked like it was tough for them to get up to the speed of the game. Sterling in particular lost the ball a few times. His recovery runs were a bit mess. So, a little reminder that Sterling's got to get up to speed, that there's going to be work to be done here. But any thoughts on our first little look at Sterling and on Jesus coming back into the team?
Yeah, so when I watched it live, I had similar feelings to you. And I watched it this morning. He was fine. Honestly, he's absolutely fine. He had one where he ran down left wing, and I think Nwaneri had played him in, and he's got the ball back, and he's run down left wing, and Nwaneri's on the edge of the area. Then normally, an Arsenal player pops it to Nwaneri, and Nwaneri takes a shot. But he tried to go across the face to get a right foot shot himself, gets dispossessed, and we're running back in the sort of game that we don't want to be running back in late in the game. And so that's that. Easy one to fix. Little sit down, mate. When you're here, look for a 1-2 or pop it off early and go. But don't go into a crowd scene and lose it. Well, very simple stuff. It's his first game, right? Imagine if he stuck it top corner in front of the away end. He'd never have to buy a drink in North London again, right? So, and football players, they're like that, aren't they? And I thought Jesus looked really sharp in his movement. And it was a shame because when Saka went down, he had to go to right wing. So he came on to do the Trossardy type role. He had to play in the interior and front and give us some pressing energy. But obviously when Nwaneri came on, they didn't want to leave the kid out there in the wide areas where one mistake could lead to something, dangerous in the half space. So they stuck him out in right wing and he did his job there. So not worried. And Nwaneri was nice, wasn't he? The ball comes into his feet.
Yeah.
It goes in and you just, some of his passes were a little bit under hit, but it's not a problem. But, when the ball goes into him, you don't think, oh, what's he going to do next? Do you know what I mean? It's like just goes in and it just calms down. And I thought Spurs, they didn't press him at all, did they? I mean, how stupid are they? Ball goes into a 7-year-old and they just let him turn around and just have a couple of touches and pop it off. He's like, oh, mate, are you that dumb? You know what I mean? And so yeah, but what he has, Elliot, he has the ability to accelerate away from men. He can accelerate to you and accelerate to create an angle for a pass. And so, although he's 17, he has the physicality and gear changes to survive. Not maybe at the elite level just yet, but you can see it's coming. He's not far away, mate. It's not far away, and it can be exciting watching him develop this season.
Yeah, I think first things first. You've always said this to me, Clive. I've learned this from you. Watch how teammates treat you when you come on the pitch. Do they give you the ball? Do they trust you? He was given the ball in spaces that aren't exactly the easiest. Center of the pitch where all the action is happening. His teammates trusted him. The other thing is he was just, look, it's a very short cameo, but he seemed willing to show his personality. That time where he did turn, he did beat a man, he had to take on a successful take on in the game. He had progressive carry. He seemed to fit and seemed to be willing to show his personality and be a part of the game, not there to just make up the numbers at the end and run around. I mean, if I have a criticism of Reiss Nelson in his time at Arsenal, there were times when he was given the chance where it looked like he was playing very much within himself, to just stand in the right places, stay in the right places, give the quick short pass. All right, boss, I'm doing, I'm following directions. Nwaneri was out there to play and be part of the game. And I think getting even just 10 minutes of action, 9 minutes of action in the derby away, I think puts him in a position where if Mikel needs to use him against Atalanta, maybe not from the start, that's a big ask, but like he can give us a half hour. He could give us, 25 minutes. So that's a really nice step up the ladder for a 17-year-old Clive,
Yeah, he, mate, to be honest, mate, it's no surprise to me, Elliot. We've been watching him a long time, really, watching him grow and develop. But again, he did a big blocking tackle towards the end of the game. And again, that means he's part of the collective, isn't he? And I do not worry about him at all. Honestly, I've got zero worries about him. It's just a matter of time and finding the right role. Sometimes you develop into a different player as you get older, and everyone thinks he's going to be Martin Odegaard type player, which he could be, But as you get older, as you develop, and if he develops a more of a two-sided game on and off the ball, defensively and attackingly, there's no reason why he can't be an 8, be the second midfielder on occasions. We saw it pre-season, didn't we? In playing the left-hand side and the right-hand side. And if he can develop that defensive game, that's how you get into an Arsenal team. If you can be trusted off the ball, like Reiss Nelson was, by the way, that's why he got so many chances. He had a great game at the weekend when he came on for Fulham, by the way. So I think, get in, do your defensive work, be trusted, because that's why Fabio Vieira's on loan, because he couldn't quite stay in the unit. You know, that's a skill. It's not about your talents, but what you do within the group. You know, and maybe that's why Smith Rowe's not at the club. It's a two-sided game. It's on and off the ball. You know, and so watch Nwaneri develop that, and then you'll see him get a lot more minutes going forward.
Yeah. Tim, I wanted to round this out with a comment just about who we are now personality-wise and the seriousness of the character of this team. And, we joke around a lot about the fogging of standards, right? But Mikel talked a lot about this right from the moment he arrived, that we're going to have non-negotiables, that we're going to lift the standards. Mikel said after the game, these players have won a lot of big games now. And you look, I think last season we were the top of the top 6 league or whatever, you know what I mean, in terms of winning the games between big clubs, the points taken from games between big clubs. I remember, last decade of Arsene Wenger, for example, we'd be very good. We might be right there near the top. Maybe we think there's a title run on. And you look at the end of the season, we were bottom of that table. We'd lose to Chelsea twice. We'd lose to United twice, or whatever the case might be. We lost a couple of painful derbies in there as well. And now you look and we're a team that seems to rise to these big occasions, that has the character to do the dirty work, that doesn't mind putting in the graft to go with the flash. And just maybe you can talk a little bit about the distance you've seen us travel, and we shouldn't just take this for granted, winning 3 derbies away, but being a team that shows up as the team that's the grown-up in the room, that minds the fine details, that isn't conceding set pieces now while Almunia or Ospina, flaps at them, but is the team that scores from set piece now with 2 giant, competent center backs, right? And physical players on the pitch who mind the details. And I think about my era growing up as an Arsenal supporter. And of course I lived through the Invincibles period, but because it was hard to watch the games during that time so much, I was an Arsenal fan from the late 90s and early 2000s, but I really got to see Arsenal and be immersed in Arsenal just after that period as it started to be more accessible to me. And I fell in love with an Arsenal that had the glass jaw. You know what I mean? That when the big moment came, they had the glass jaw. And to start to change that mindset, to be the team that goes into big games. And what have we done this season already? One at Villa, one at Spurs. Now we're going to go to the Etihad. There's a trust that I have in this team that is so different from so many years. So that's a lot of word salad. Can you make that into something about our character and our ability to rise to the occasion?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of things here. Aura, as the kids might say.
The kids are saying, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's quite important as well about some of these things is like the time that you do them. And, I was talking earlier about, I reckon there would have been a very big television audience for this. Like sometimes doing it when everyone is watching as well. Like I reckon other than the ones who are actually playing on Sunday, nearly every Premier League player would have been watching that game, and they'd be watching that game going, what do we do with Arsenal? Like, what does my team do with this team? Because like they can do a bit of everything, and I think really as well that matters. Like perception matters as well. And when I think about how it was actually quite quick in the end, that the way that pre-Wenger, like the way Arsene Wenger, I know it's been said and written about so much now, but like I think you really need to have lived through it, like how quickly he completely flipped the perception of the type of team we are, because we'd never been the team that played like that type of football really. We'd always been known as boring Arsenal, and he quickly flipped the image of the club, and actually that started to go too far the other way, I think, the commitment to aesthetics and all of that. And it's taken a long time, I think, to lose that tag a little bit, to lose that tag as the kind of, well, Arsenal will probably always let you down in the end. And we referenced it when we were doing our pre-season predictions, all the kind of podcasts and all of that, all predicting us to win the league. And I listened to the way people, pundits, journalists, etc., talk about us now very, very differently, that there is a respect there, that we don't have the glass jaw anymore. And that matters, because that transmits to your opponents as well. And we all do the meme about like lining up next to the Invincibles in the tunnel, and you line up next to this lot in the tunnel, and there's that physical demeanour, but it's not just a physical thing. It's they're going to use that as well, and they're going to. But we're in for a really, really hard day here, and I think all of that matters. It probably shouldn't, but it does in elite sports, and Arsenal changing their image. It's taken a little while, and we've had to go through some pain as well. This fixture 2 seasons ago, the 3-0 defeat, when I really wish would have had the ability then to go and deep block Spurs and, play a 4-4-2 block and grind it out. But we couldn't really with the players we had. And that Newcastle there's been some pain. There has been some pain. We have had to go through it a little bit. And when you look at the age of this team and the experience they've had and what they have ahead of them, all of this is it's great for the memory bank as well, for them to, the next time they have to go and do this, and the next time they have to go and do this, next week they're going to have to go and do this again. They're going to have to go and play an off-ball game where they're possibly not the favourites, and all of this in the memory bank, in the kind of muscle memory, is really, really positive, both for our players, but it's really positive, for us to show that face to everyone else as well.
Yeah, while everyone was focused on Mohamed Salah, while everyone was focused on Sadio Mane, while everyone was focused on Trent, Liverpool were winning a title and a Champions League because they had Virgil van Dijk. And when he was out, they finished 4th or 5th. Arsenal had this best center-back pairing in the world. And it creates the platform for players like Odegaard and Kai and Saka and Martinelli and ultimately Sterling and Jesus and whoever we want to try to get goals from to go do what they have to do, because they know, you know what? We're not going to have our head in our hands watching bozos at the back, watching Mustafi at the back, watching, Almunia and Espina, kick the ball into their own net, head the ball into their own net, flap it crosses. We're going to be solid at the back so that when that moment comes, we can win it. If you want to be a serious team, when you go to someone else's ground, you give them no hope. Right now, when Arsenal come to your ground, you're not scoring. How must that feel? When a team, I'll read the stat again because it's extraordinary. 11 games away in 2024, 10 wins and a draw, 31 goals scored, 3 conceded, 9 clean sheets in 11 games, and we have trailed for 0 minutes on our travels in this calendar year in 11 games. When Arsenal come to your ground, a serious outfit is coming to shut out the light for you. And the best center back pairing in the world is going to handle your threat. And that gives you the foundation. And I'll admit, I'm an attack-minded supporter, so I want to see us buy the forwards and play the fun attacking football. Oh, by the way, we broke our goal-scoring record last season. So it's not like we're being starved at the other end. But Clive, we are a serious, professional, grown-up team now. And, once upon a time when Arsenal were down, it was easy to knock them out. We were down going into this game. We were missing key players. But with that center-back pairing and that foundation that Mikel has built, of minding the details at the back, you're just not going to have a lot of chances to beat us. And I think it is something that I'm finally growing up to realize how special it is. As someone who likes to see the goals fly in, to the opposition net, not seeing them fly into your own net gives you a chance to win every time,
Yeah, if you don't have stability, you don't have anything, and we had 2 stabilising fullbacks in this game. We've seen Arsenal play with maybe a left back that hadn't been stabilising for us. We saw a stabiliser on both sides, and we felt okay, didn't we? And my philosophy on football has been quite simple. I build from the back, and yeah, a lot of times I do like a double pivot. A lot of times, not all the time. And there was no reason why we couldn't go to Man City a few years ago and play a double pivot and do a similar thing. But at that phase of our development, we chose to go another way. We chose to go and press them. We were trying to establish ourselves at the elite table. And to go there and cower wouldn't have been what we wanted to do at that time. But I think we learned from that. We learned from that straight very, very quickly. And the first time I saw Arsenal sort of gain a bit of respect from the elite City and Liverpool was maybe the home game when Martinelli scored, and I felt we were compact in that game. We had a few people out and we were compact, and they had to respect our ability to spring. We had to respect their ability to spring. But this is what the game is, right? You can't look at a team and know what their strengths are and just let them do it. You have to stop them, right? You have to stop them. And yes, we walk away with pictures in our mind of the last pass that's given away and the last shot that was missed. But within the construct of any game, there are so many different decisions and battles. and supportive actions to allow us to be who we are. The team's identity from 30,000 feet for me is our ability to create a platform to play. That is who we are now. We have grown up. And your point about Raya was really important. Not only did Raya play well, particularly when we didn't play well at the start of the game, he actually slowed the game down really maturely. You know, look at the Tottenham goalkeeper, man. You look at his face. Well, one, you just want to punch it, but two, he does not. When you look into his face, does he portray any form of calm? You know, he doesn't. The Tottenham players were going to their own funerals when that corner came in. They knew it was a problem. He'd already flapped up one and went screaming out of his goal. He'd already come out and got involved in a row with Saka and got himself booked. Get in your goal, son. Get between your sticks and offer your team some platform and stability and some calmness. David Seaman, ain't him. Do you know what I mean? He is not offering that level of calmness. And so as a team, we've grown up. We've grown up. So now we have to go through this phase of season where we are with players that are missing and potentially, 4 or 5 teenagers on the bench. We have to go through this phase in the best way we possibly can before we get to another phase where we may be able to expand a little bit more. Then we may have to go to a phase around Christmas time where we need to be really efficient, maybe get people off after an hour because we've got the goals, because we've got to rest people before we get into the next phase of Champions League. It's going to go, this won't be us all season, and nor do I want it to be, despite the fact that I quite like it. Nor do I want it to be, Tim mentioned the Copenhagen. Well, not you mentioned Copenhagen, but I know what you mean, Tim. Around that period, 94. This was us. This was us, And with Kevin Campbell recently departed, he used to do a good impression of Saka on the right wing. This was us. Hard-working performance. And I thought of him yesterday, actually, when we got this win. I really thought of him. And so, yeah, this is a major, major point in our trust in this team. Our maturity is really starting to show, and I think that's really positive.
I think there are sliding door moments in seasons that kind of unlock the potential. Tim, this feels like one, because I think one last season, actually, obviously beating City was big, but I actually think it's the Liverpool win. Because if you look at where the table was at that time and where we were and who we were after that Liverpool win, then we just ripped off an unbelievable run. And I think it was a catalyst for that. This was a moment where we were weak. We were wounded. I think there was a lot of expectation that this was Spurs' chance, that Liverpool would beat Forest, obviously, and this would start to feel like Liverpool and City again. And maybe because of our injuries and we haven't looked our best, maybe this season is turning out to be more of a just consolidate near the top, not go for the title. That you heard that kind of talk already permeating. Now we've shown we can win when we're wounded. We've put Spurs in their place. We've actually bypassed Liverpool because they lose at home to Forest, which has people raising an eyebrow about maybe this slot thing is going to take a little more time than people were ready to acknowledge. And now the Champions League stuff comes in, so that's going to change a lot of performances. This feels like a win that just tilts the whole league on its axis, because in context, in combination of the Liverpool result and what it could have been had it gone the other way, we now go from people maybe being ready to relegate us to a different class to having to realize we're right there again. And it gives the team, I think, the belief they'll need to get through a tough period, maybe still missing guys like Odegaard and Marino and things like that, maybe even Calafiori. So do you see this similarly, like as a sliding doors game where getting this win is more than just the 3 points we got here, but really allows us to maintain the story of the season that we want to be able to tell ourselves,
Yeah, definitely, because we've got a tough game on Thursday and we've got a tough game on Sunday. This was the beginning of a very tough week, and in many ways, Spurs away, you put the derby bit aside, probably the easiest of the 3 games, quite frankly. certainly because of how they happen sequentially as well, albeit off the back of an international break. But the thing is, and I know we talked about this a little bit in the week as well, if you want to be a team that wins the league, tries to win the Champions League, like, no one has the perfect season where everyone is available for every minute of every game. And we were talking, before the game yesterday, we were looking at this week and going, bloody hell, like, what start to the season this is. But, I kind of said, but every team has a week or a fortnight like that in the season. And Elliot, I think you pointed out about Liverpool, fixture-wise, they've had a pretty gentle start to the season. It's still not, they've still had a ricket in there, and maybe after 3 games, people have worked out what they're doing now. But, like, is it in November? They've got, like, Real Madrid, us, and Chelsea, and like everyone has a week like that in the season. City will have several. That's just how it goes. You cannot and will not win those big trophies without being challenged sometimes. And you look at seasons when Arsenal have won the league. 2001-2, we had 3 goalkeepers who qualified for a medal. Like, we had, we were down to our 3rd choice goalkeeper, but we won the league. We went out there and we won the league. And, you've just got to get over challenges like this. I think it's all right for fans to, like, we're not the players. We're not like elite footballers. Like, I think it's all right for us to worry and fret a little bit, but for the players and the manager, they have to say, okay, we have to find a way to win this game in a different way. And for the belief of the team going into, 2 really, really tough games in the next couple of days. Next weekend, we've got the toughest game in world football next weekend, and we're going to do that probably without our captain as well. So for the belief of the team to go into those games, I think this was utterly critical, really do.
Yeah. And every game we play is a game we get closer to getting Odegaard back, getting Marino back, getting Calafiori in. So there's strength to come. Clive, we'll finish with you answering the same thing. Big picture, the Etihad is probably the hardest game there is in football right now. No one wins at the Etihad. No one. And we have to go there next weekend, probably weaker than we'd like to be. And they could trot out Rodri and Foden with a high polish shine on them, like all fresh and fit and raring to go if they want. Those games are usually eye-bleedingly terrible for the neutral, which I love to, because this is not Liverpool versus City anymore. This is Mikel versus Pep. It's not going to be fun. But going into it, having shown that we can overcome adversity like we had going into this game, I think it stands us in good stead for the City fixture. I think it stands us in good stead for the season, because if there's a time later in the season where Rice is in the red zone and, he needs to be sat out a game, there's the confidence that you can get through it. So how important is this? It's so early, but we know the points count all over the season. How important is this, especially with City on the horizon?
Every game's important, I suppose. That's a nice statement. Sound like a pundit there, didn't I? It's one game at a time. Every game's important. Basically,
one game at a time.
Yeah, but I'm already doing it in my head, right? So what face are we going to show? Obviously, Rice will come in. We're not sure who for, but I think Rice will come in. And will we go a similar system, or will we go for I want to say, because we did flip between 2 systems. We were 4-2-3-1 on occasions. We were 4-4-2 on occasions. We were 4-2-4 on occasions. So we're probably going to do something similar. And I think we're set up. I think we're almost a better shape than last year. I know it sounds crazy, but for an off-the-ball game, and because we've been there and gone there and done it and know what it feels like, I think the most important thing for us is to let the game come to us next week. Don't go and get it unless you have to. Be efficient on the ball, be attacking on the ball, do what you need to do, try to execute on the ball, but don't be stupid. Don't show them spaces to run into, because they will do that. They will do that. But we hopefully have the kryptonite to their main man up front, right? We have 2 centre-backs. If they're both fit and ready to go, then let's see what happens. There's going to be a focus on that. There's going to be a focus on Arsenal needing to win, right? So I think we need to win the next game, the second game. We don't need to win the first game. But let the game come to you and let's see what happens. We've got a lot of confidence now in this group. And so if we're healthier, Elliot, Martinelli sharp, Jesus sharp, maybe he'll be ready for a start by then. Who knows? We've got enough in our group to show them a couple of offensive faces late in the game. But I think we have enough in our platform, defensive-wise, to do the same again, and we'll be fine.
I think winning this game puts the burden on City instead of us. I think if you lose the derby and you go into City knowing, gosh, they could beat us and almost put a nail in the coffin, it would feel like, right? But now we went into the derby depleted, won anyway, showed how stout we are defensively, how well organized and well drilled we are. And now City know they have to hold serve. You can't lose at home in a title race to your main title contender. You know, that can be where titles are won and lost. You have to hold serve at home like we did last season. So now, instead of there being this gap and City being able to feel like they can just end it, kind of like they did when we went to the Etihad 2 seasons ago, right? When we went to the Etihad 2 seasons ago, because we dropped those dumb points to West Ham and Southampton, instead of going to the Etihad with the pressure on them to try to get back in the title race, we went to the Etihad needing to salvage a title race. And I just don't think you can go to the Etihad in that emotional state. But this time, because of this win, we go there and they have to hold serve. They have to hold serve. And so I just love that we can go where the pressure might be a little on them. That doesn't mean they'll crumble. They've done a lot of pressure stuff before. It doesn't mean that we'll win, but psychologically, it's the way I'd rather go into that game, not having to rescue a situation. And the players have put themselves in that position with a heroic win at Tottenham. North London is red. And I will say, by the way, the other joy of this is Spurs just look like they're miles away. This manager who was the next guy, he was going to lead them to their next promised land. It's crumbling a bit. He's crumbling a bit. He's getting tetchy. They're getting impatient. They clearly have a soft underbelly. They are going through that period where they're not sure of the plan. The players they've bought don't look good enough. They've spent a lot of money on crap. And it's just beautiful because this consolidates the fact that we are a title challenger and they are miles off. So it is a good day to be Arsenal. It is a good week to be Arsenal. Take a couple days to soak it up. Then we get the Champions League back. And in a way, nice to have the Champions League back just so we're not thinking about the Etihad for the next 6 days straight. But it is another massive week for us. And then the fixtures change a little bit. And the conversation is going to evolve a little bit. We'll hopefully maybe get some positive updates on injuries, but my expectation is nothing's going to change this week. So probably going to look a lot like it did this weekend. And now we know that we can survive with that. We will do the main pod on Friday. There will be an instant reaction on Thursday. There will be another patron pod, probably a rewatch Wednesday. So lots of stuff coming this week to keep you busy. Tomorrow, there might even be a Stats Guy and Civilian with Paul and Scott. So hope to get something for you maybe every day this week, which will be fun. Keep it going. I think we can leave it there. A phenomenal derby win. Hope you enjoyed it wherever you are. I know it's the best, isn't it? It's just the best. It's the worst day of the year until you win. And then it's the best day of the year. It's misery until it's euphoria. Clive's on Twitter at ClivePFC. Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
Tim's on Twitter at Stillmanator. Thanks, Tim.
Vamos. My pleasure as always.
My name is Elliot Smith, Blockman Twitter, Yankee Gunner. We love you, and we will talk to you after Arsenal 10 at 11.